I am not an historian. My name is Jim Wallace, as you can see, and I am actually a cold case homicide detective in the state of California in Los Angeles County. And that informs the way I would examine this kind of case. If you're familiar with cold cases, these are just unsolved murders. And most of my murders have been on Dateline. So if you like Dateline and you've been watching Dateline, then you're going to see some of the cases that I work. And we work homicides because there's no statute of limitations on a homicide. If you did a robbery or a burglary in any area in the country, after a number of years, those cases close. But homicides stay open. So if it occurs 30 years ago, we can still work it. I'm working a case right now from 1972. So it's an old case. And when it gets to be that old, really it becomes kind of interesting, right? Because I don't have access often to the original eyewitnesses. I don't have access sometimes to the people who wrote the reports about the original eyewitnesses. So I'm doing a lot of investigating about past claims, but I have no access to primary sources. And if you think about it, that's really what we're going to do when we examine the case for the resurrection. We have documents that were written from allegedly eyewitnesses by other people, and we have no access to the eyewitness or the other person. It's very similar. Now, I will tell you, we're from a kind of a 3-generation pedigree in our family. My son is still doing the same work that I did for years at my agency in Los Angeles County, and he has the same name that I have. We just are not very clever when it comes to names, so we use the same name over and over again. And he's wearing the same uniform that I wore before him, and I'm wearing the same uniform that my dad wore before me. So we have 3 generations. For 58 years, if you've called our agency and asked for Jim Wallace, there's been somebody there to answer the phone. Now look, we're going to go through a lot of material, and some of it will be pretty easy to digest. Some of it will be a little more interesting probably than other pieces, but I want to put this together as an investigative puzzle. Now we're going to use 2 books in order to inform our process. Some of this material, especially rules of evidence, will come out of a book called Forensic Faith, and some of this material will come out of a book called Cold Case Christianity. Again, I'm looking at this from the unique perspective of somebody who puts together cases, evidential cases, cumulative, circumstantial evidential cases about events in the distant past. And I think you'll see that some of what we do can inform the process that you might use to investigate this. Also, I will tell you this too. I think that when you're trying to communicate this to others, sometimes if you start to get into historical method with people, they're like, well, really, it seems kind of foreign. But if you say, well, you know, like when you watch a murder investigation on TV, suddenly everyone goes, okay, I've got a context for that. I've been over the shoulder of a detective on TV, so I kind of get where you're coming from. It'll help you to communicate these principles if we can contextualize these principles in some form of investigation on the part of detectives. I think everyone knows what detectives do, or they think they do, by watching television. Now look, I'm showing you here on the screen what I think are the 4 distinctive duties of any first responder, and I happen to believe that these are also the 4 distinctive duties of any Christian. But for this course, I'm only going to talk about the first one as we talk about why we would take an evidential approach to investigating the resurrection to begin with. I'm really talking about how to embrace this duty we have to take an evidential approach to our Christian beliefs. Look at it this way. I think that the Christian worldview is unique in that it makes a very specific kind of claim. Let me give it to you as an illustration. What if someone said to you, you know, Jim, yesterday, God spoke to me. I had a private conversation with God, and he told me something that I in fact want to share. He told me to share this with you. I had this private vision, and I'm now going to share with you what God told me to share with you. Well, I think you could rightly at least challenge that a little bit. Say, really, why should I believe that God spoke to you and gave you a message for me? Well, he could say, well, I'm telling you, Jim, I've talked to God a number of times. I've had several visions from God, and I'm telling you, as real as I'm standing here in front of you, that God truly gave me a vision, gave me a message to speak to you. Trust me, it was real. Okay, well, I think you still might be in a position where you would kind of question that. I mean, how could you even test that? You're just going to trust your friend, I guess. How about this? What if your friend pitched it a slightly different way? What if your friend said, Jim, yesterday God came to me and spoke to me. And when he came to me, he appeared to me physically. As a matter of fact, he appeared to me in my backyard where I was having dinner with 2 or 3 friends. And I swear to you, it was amazing. He appeared to me there and he gave me a message for you. And then he looked over at my grass and he said, man, your grass is really dry. I'm going to help you out. And he actually dug a trench for my irrigation line. And then he looked at my tree and he says, man, you got a nice tree there. And he built a tree house for my kids. Well, I'll tell you what, if that was the case, you'd be in a different position because you could actually test that kind of claim. You could actually say, okay, wait a minute, who are those friends you're talking about? Let me go interview your friends. And I should be able to look in your grass and see that trench that he dug with you. And I'll tell you, if God visited you yesterday and built you a treehouse, it would probably be a really cool treehouse. This kind of claim is different than the first kind of claim because the claim about a private vision is very different than a claim about a public appearance. And it can be tested in a different way. I really can't test private vision. So most of the world's religions, most of theistic worldviews are really built on, how am I going to test Buddhism? The claims of Buddha, the proper proverbs of many religious leaders. They're very hard to test, right? Because these are claims that exist privately in the mind of the prophet, allegedly. But this would be a different kind of a test. Christianity is a public claim about a public appearance, a resurrection that occurred publicly. This is, in fact, the kind of thing that could be tested. And this is what separates Christianity from other worldviews. It turns out we could, if we wanted to, take a very evidential approach toward Christianity in a way that we couldn't toward other religious worldviews. Thanks so much for watching our video. If it was helpful and useful to you, I'd really appreciate it if you would follow us, subscribe to our channel at the bottom link here in the video, and tell your friends. And please follow us on social media.